Hi there, it's Mary Charlson here from 5minutemarketing.com. Welcome back to this week's video to complement the blog post. This week, we're looking at the notion of change or be changed, and specifically looking at the degree of changes which have taken place over the last 12, 14 weeks since the pandemic hit on a global scale. Specifically, we're looking at the changes around alternatives and substitutes to the degree to which these may have impacted you and you're not even recognizing it in terms of what your consumers have potentially changed in terms of their behavior. So looking at it as potential threats, but also finding opportunity in those changes. And then on top of that, we're also looking at the growing notion of hybrids as a result of us being driven, I would say, at least 5 years into the future in a 12-week time period, largely online for working and for social interaction, at least in the shorter term. What that has introduced us to and way it has forced us into new behaviors, and largely the ones that maybe were resisting before are less resistant to technology simply because it's become a matter of survival. So I'm going to be looking at alternatives and substitutes, and I did a little bit of primary research on this, and I think it's quite interesting. We're going to explore some of the things. Certainly the post has a tremendous amount of detail in it. I call it the mega post, and I go into everything from the results as well as the comments, which are really, really insightful on a granular level about what is going on. So this was some research which was fielded between the week of May 22nd through early June. I'm basing these comments on the results that came in. It hadn't entirely closed off, but it was pretty close to being closed. I had around 100 respondents, just shy of 100, and I'm keeping it open, expecting 100 when I finally tie it off. So these are results, I would say, that represent a sample roughly in that 100. I think it was like around 95 or something, pretty darn close. So they were asked, thinking of the last 10 to 12 weeks since the pandemic hit, have you changed any products, suppliers, or services that you had been loyal to previously? This one really kind of shocked me because we had 73% of people who had changed their product, their service, or a supplier that they were previously loyal to. This is huge. Now, some of that is out of necessity. They weren't open. There wasn't an option. They had to look for different ways of doing things. But it's the second part of the question, which I think provides a whole lot of potential threats, but also potential insight in terms of opportunity. And that was this: if they had answered yes to that question, yes, I have changed, they were asked, and if they were pleased with the alternative substitute found elsewhere, how likely is it that they will continue to buy this product or service in the future? Combined, strongly likely and likely together came out to 65%. Specifically, that likely was 45, strongly likely was 20, but together 65%. So let me just stop and review this for a second. So in the last 12 weeks, 73% of people have changed their behavior to a previously loyal business. And the degree to which they've experienced something that they have enjoyed or liked, potentially better, 65% of them believe that they will continue that pattern of behavior. That is remarkable. And when you think about what has happened there, we all of a sudden are in a position where we have to kind of look and say, wow, maybe we aren't still married to our customers. Maybe they've gone dating, and maybe they've swiped right, or swiped left, or whatever the heck it is. They found someone else, and you're going to have to win them back. So there's a lot of disruption which has happened, and that it's shifted our behaviors in many areas: where, how, and when we work. It's shifted our commuter and our transit patterns. It's shifted our dining out patterns or ordering in, entertainment options, grocery shopping patterns, sport, recreation, fitness, you name it. Now, many of these things we'll go back because people have maybe changed, and it was great in the interim, but they still like the face-to-face. They like being able to do things the way that they had before. But what has happened out of necessity is they've been exposed to new ways of doing things. And in many cases have been delighted by unexpected things that they wouldn't have gone looking for, but the fact that they got pushed there or pulled, they have found things that they enjoy. So just to kind of briefly do a bit of a top line on for the video, and then as I said, we'll get into much more detail in the blog post. But when we took a look at, have you altered your work habits, where, when, or how you work, 73%. That shouldn't come as a big surprise in terms of, people have been forced to work out of home. But when we take a look at how likely are you to maintain these work-related changes going forward as the economy opens up, when we get back to some normal patterns, 65% said that they were strongly likely or likely to want to maintain whatever that change is. Now, that is not necessarily default to at home on your computer working all the time. However, what it says is that the changes that they've made, a lot of them have liked. And so whether they go back to it 100%, wanting to stay like that, or some sort of hybrid, which is, we'll get into the hybrid discussion, I think this has opened up a tremendous number of opportunities. If you altered your commuter, your transit, or your driving patterns over the last 10 to 12 weeks, 62% said yes. Again, shouldn't come as a huge surprise. However, when we ask them about that, there's a lot of really positive stuff talking about how they've gained time in their day, how they've been able to do other things. They've been exposed to a new way of life. Many repercussions of this, from trends analysis, opportunities, also potential threats. Have you altered your dining out dining out or order in activity over the last 10 to 12 weeks? 85% said yes. Okay, maybe they've discovered something new. Maybe they like a new restaurant. Maybe they won't ever dine out again. Or maybe they will, but they will do it in a different manner. Have you altered your entertainment options over the last 10 to 12 weeks? 89% said yes. And there's some really fascinating comments in here, but I think one of the ones that I found most insightful was somebody who said that they had attended virtual events and that they'd be willing to pay for that in the future. Virtual events as in a music, orchestra performance. And when I'm reading between the lines on some of their other comments, I would say this was an older couple, and they kind of liked the fact that they could attend it sitting in their home. They didn't have to go out and get parking and do all sorts of things. It's not to say that everyone's going to want to do that, but it is exposing new potential segments, new opportunities. And this is where the hybrid conversation comes into play. We're social beings by nature. Only a certain number of people are going to want to go back to being completely online, but there's going to be people who are going to want a little bit of a mix of both. And so we're starting to see this coming out in these comments around not only sport activities, entertainment activities, some of the people who are exposed to doing online workouts. It's like they can't wait to get back to the gym, but they kind of also enjoy the online stuff. And so maybe there's a new opportunity there for a segment, at certain times of their week or their day where they would do this a couple of times and be willing to pay for it. Have you altered your grocery shopping? 73% said yes. And this is anything from location to the number of times they shop, the frequency. But what came out really interestingly, it shouldn't be a big surprise. Again, it's being driven by safety. The whole notion, are there lineups? Are they social distancing? How are they handling it? The gloves, the disinfection, whatever it might be, masks. But there's a decided interest there for shopping closer, patronizing local, and also being less price sensitive when it errs on their concerns around health and safety. And I think that's a really interesting insight here as well. And so we've got loyalty patterns being disrupted right, left, and center in terms of food, whether it be grocery shopping or ordering in and ordering out. And again, if you're in that industry, don't just assume they're still married to you, even though they've been patronizing you because they've been open. they've switched. There's been a ton of switching going on. Have you altered your recreation or fitness activities over the last 10 to 12 weeks? 81% said yes. There's many different, but the best comment one was, it says, no, I'm a huge lump of lard. Okay. But a lot of people were doing different active things, but a lot of it is outdoors driven. A lot of it's walking, hiking, biking kind of things, but there's certainly mentions of online workouts and alternative solutions, meeting a new yoga coach from around the world, being exposed to new people, new communities. And so again, I'm not saying that everyone's going to want this, but there are some members of society that have been exposed to it that wouldn't have been otherwise, who have found something that they kind of like. And there are going to be opportunities in that. And there's also going to be threats for the people that don't see that there will be some movement in that direction. And the most fascinating was when we asked the open-ended question, if you could keep some of the changes that you've made over the last 10 to 12 weeks, once the pandemic is over, what would they be? And largely there's this sense of calmness that they would love to maintain, if indeed they've been able to maintain calmness. Some love being able to work from home. Others can't wait to get back to their office. And that's largely, I would say, driven by not really having a home atmosphere that was conducive to their work. But the ones that loved it a lot, and for reasons that they perhaps didn't anticipate. Productivity, the ability to set their own time and schedule, to be more flexible with their families. So I see this as driving this hybrid behavior. I still need the social from my coworkers, but being able to work several days a week, they would love to be able to do that if they had a way to do it for it to be supported. What has also come out in this is the productivity thing. The assumption was that productivity would go down if you were working at home because you'd be too close to, the fridge and, watching Netflix or whatever. And in fact, and there was an article in the Globe just recently about this, saying actually productivity has gone up as a result of this. So the whole, employer saying, well, working from home doesn't work. All of a sudden, the equation has been shifted. But there's many other things that they wanted to keep that not related to work. Just this whole, feeling of, being able to connect with family on FaceTime. Again, they're going to be the first to want to embrace their family when they can in a physical way. But it has reconnected generations in ways that hadn't been anticipated. People have learned new ways of learning during this time period. There's been many different things in terms of activities, fitness, and things that they want to maintain. And real thing around work-life balance, less driving, less commuting, looking for different ways and really seeing how it's impacting their world. Travel, right? I've got people who love to travel that are saying, I'm not hopping on a plane anytime soon. I'm not hopping in that sausage, that airtight sausage with a bunch of people until there's a vaccine. But they're being very positive in terms of what they're looking for in terms of exploration closer to home. Really fascinating stuff. And just the whole notion overall of kind of slowing the pace, living a pace of grace, and really, really interesting stuff. So what I see coming out of all of that is this huge pattern of change, which has been forced on us, kind of pushed and pulled from a variety of directions. And it is bringing about opportunities for business to not just assume that their customers are going to be the same and loyal, but assume that you may have to date them again and nurture that relationship, but also to recognize opportunity in the changes that have transpired. And there are new segments that are looking for new solutions and new opportunities. This has driven so much in terms of capabilities around technology, and this is also being, it's moving very quickly, and businesses will be able to, take advantage of this as well. So, a couple more words on the hybrid. The hybrid, I believe, is here to stay. Simply, the hybrid is a bit of both. It is online and it is face-to-face. The face-to-face isn't going away anytime soon. We're social creatures, but the ability to mix these things is going to be what drives things. Why do I feel that hybrids are here to stay? Flexibility, right? It's when and how you want it. In an economy and it is driven by consumers that get choice, they've had choice and they're not going to want to give it back. Efficiency, time and cost savings, conferences being delivered online, work things, meetings, not having to travel, stay in different places. The efficiency has been proven very, very well here. The interaction, it's not less interaction, it's actually 2 times the possibilities. So if you have a hybrid event where you are face-to-face, let's say a classroom or a work meeting, but you've also got people online, there's double the potential for interactivity with the tools in place that allow those in the room to be interactive with those who are online as well. So basically giving everyone content in a way that they want it, or provides flexibility. And this is going to be particularly important as we kind of emerge into an opened economy where we still have to honor some people needing social isolation, whether that be because they've been exposed or whether it's out of fear. We have to honor that. And that's going to be with us for some time, even after we get a vaccine, because let's face it, we're not going to be able to commercialize this thing that quickly for an entire globe. And so we're into a period where flexibility is needed. So catering to different work, learning, and social styles, I see the hybrid as doing this. As I said, it has allowed us to deliver experiences, content, learning to different groups of people in the ways that they want. Technology innovation is going to make quantum leaps. A lot of upkeep on Zoom, lots of different networking, collaboration tools. This stuff is going to make whatever we've got today look like, rudimentary within 6 months to a year. And so the innovation is going to really drive a lot of possibilities here. We're globally connected. We're going to want to stay globally connected, and hybrids allow for that. But we're still social, right? And so it's not all of one, all of the other. It allows people, different personalities, different needs at different times, whatever it might be, to be connected and to be able to have this in a variety of different formats. And finally, hybrids basically protect from future threats. Hybrids allow us, to have a system in place in order to function if, and let's hope never, we're ever exposed to this type of threat to our health, but also to our economy in the future. So change or be changed. And that's the summary for this week. Alternatives and substitutes are really dramatically disrupting things, whether we like it or not. And hybrids are here to stay. Thanks for joining us, and do jump on over to the blog post for a whole lot more details. Thanks a lot. And read some more stuff while you're over there. Okay, thanks. 5minutemarketing.com, Mary Charlson, your place for marketing insight.